All right, and our weekly bonus segment for those listening on the podcast. Plenty to talk about with him as always. It is Cam Tucker from BCLC and PlayNow.com. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, fellas.
Good.
Wow, what a what a last few days we've had in the sports world, and the Blue Jays moving on to the World Series, but more importantly, the BC Lions looking to lock down home field advantage this week. They
Yes.
looked pretty good last week against Edmonton.
Yeah. I mean, they call October one of the best sports months for a reason, and we're seeing it across multiple leagues. And yeah, the upcoming Grey Cup playoffs for the BC Lions obviously is the closest and dearest to our heart. We'll talk about the odds here in just a second, Cam. But this opening line, most likely a product of what Saskatchewan is going to do with their lineup. The Lions opening as an 8.5 road favorite in Saskatchewan. Of course, they have a lot more to play for.
Yeah, I was, a little bit surprised to see the line at 8.5 points today. And like you said, Matt, I think that that's definitely a byproduct of the odds makers looking at what the Saskatchewan Roughriders might do in this matchup. Who are they going to rest? Who are they going to start? And is that a game that they're, not that you would say that they're going to take it off, but how mentally motivated are they going to be for that game? And then you look at the flip side of this, the BC Lions are going into this game winners of five straight. They're rolling on all phases of the game right now, and they're looking to lock down home field advantage in the West Division semifinal. So the BC Lions have plenty to play for. It's they need a win here to really kind of secure that spot. And so it is an interesting line, 8.5 points. I don't, would have never thought that the BC Lions would be favored by 8.5 going into Saskatchewan at the end of the season, but here we are. And the Lions right now, full credit to them. It's not just a 5 game win streak, but they're 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 games. And the only loss that they had against the spread in that 5 game span was against the Argonauts, which was a game that I think that, BC kind of had in hand. Wasn't really much of a threat, I didn't feel, but they didn't cover in that game nonetheless. They've been playing some very good football, so they go into this game red hot and favored by 8.5 points. So should be a really interesting game. We'll see what happens. But right now the Lions are playing really good football at the absolute best possible time.
Cam, when we last talked to you a week ago at the Brownsville pub in Surrey, we mentioned that the BC Lions were plus 500 odds to win the Grey Cup, but a 5 game win streak now, sticking with the number five. Has that changed that number for plus 500?
It did until about 10 minutes ago. So we're recording this on a Tuesday. So I was like, oh yeah, I got in my notes here, plus 400. Okay, we've seen the movement from plus 500 down to plus 400. And then I just checked our app a few minutes ago. We're back to plus 500. But look, um, you can look at that one of two ways. And you could say the odds makers are not giving the BC Lions enough respect for what they've done over the last 5 weeks. The BC line should be, closer to Saskatchewan or certainly closer to Montreal or Hamilton in terms of the odds. Hey, the good news is they're ahead of Calgary, which I was actually, quite stunned to see last week that Calgary had better Grey Cup odds than the Lions did. But nonetheless, the Lions now have better Grey Cup odds than the Calgary Stampeders and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. But at plus 500, the other way to look at this is, there's some value on the Lions here. They are playing the best football of any of the teams going into the playoffs right now. And if you think that, momentum will continue, then plus 500 looks like a very appealing wager to make. And let's look at what the Lions have done offensively. 9 out of the last 10 games, they've scored 30 or more points. So I don't think anybody is going to sit there and say, the Lions offense, can they get it done in the playoffs? I think they very much can get it done. Defensively, there was certainly a lot to pick apart in August, in July, August, early September. The Lions defensively have turned a huge corner. And they have allowed, I think it's, four straight games where they have allowed 25 or fewer points against. So that's a massive turnaround from what we were seeing in the summer, and especially that game against Toronto, earlier on where they allowed 50 plus points. The Lions defense has really turned it around. So now you have the defense and the offense both clicking at the same time. I think that's a really good sign. And if you think that that's going to continue into the playoffs, if you're a betting man and you're looking at this and saying, I think this is going to continue, plus 500, I think is really the most value you're going to get on the Lions to win the Grey Cup at this point. Because if they win against Saskatchewan and they win the West Division semifinal against whatever the opponent might be, then you're certainly not going to get plus 500 on them to win the Grey Cup. So right now, this might be the most valuable number that you're going to get them for the rest of the way.
Yeah, and still ahead of Calgary. Hey, what's that saying, Baker? ABC.
ABC.
Anybody but Calgary?
Yep.
Perfect. Cam, as we always close, the odds boost. You hit last week. What do we got cooking up this week?
Two in a row.
Two in a row.
We've had some hot streaks this year and some cold streaks. This one's a little bit difficult just because with the way that it's set up with Saskatchewan, depends on who they're playing and who they're resting. It is a little bit difficult for player props at this time of year. There's maybe a little less certainty. So I think that we're going to look at, the BC Lions money line or the point spread, and then we'll probably look to parlay that with a team total. And we just talked about the Lions offense. Right now, the two team totals that we have at PlayNow, over under 29.5 points and over under 30.5 points. So that's a really big indication that the Lions offense is clicking. They're a juggernaut right now. And so I think that we would probably look at parlaying team total with a point spread going into this matchup against the Roughriders.
Excellent. We'll be tracking it feverishly. We'll be checking the numbers and the stats as it goes on. Excellent work this regular season, my friend, and we'll do it come playoff time.
I hate to ask this, but it's like, where did the time go? We had so much fun, and now
we were just in Kamloops doing this thing.
Yeah, summer's come and gone. It's fall weather's here. Playoff football, it's around the corner, so lots of fun. It's been a joy for me to be part of this, and looking forward to the playoffs as well.
All right, thank you, sir. Cam Tucker from BCLC and PlayNow.com. And we're back on First and Now talking playoffs next week and beyond.